Good evening, everyone. Welcome. This is the Town of Somer Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. The date is January 21st, 2020. Denise, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Carpenetto?
Here.
Ms. DiPolito?
Here.
Mr. Gio?
Here.
Mr. Harding?
Here.
Mr. Lansky?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Chairman Canestra?
Here.
Thank you.
I request everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda this evening is that of Elmer and Marianne Akjar. I'm sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is an application for an area variance for a detached one-car garage in to an existing one-family dwelling in an R40 residential district at 23 Elijah Purdy Road in Amawalk. Is someone here to represent the applicant or the applicant? Sir, if you could just... Yes, if you...
My first time.
Yes. Yes, if you could please go behind the podium, speak into the microphone, just give us your name and address.
Is it on? It's on? Okay.
Yeah.
Elmer Akjar, 23 Elijah Purdy Road.
Okay, great. Could you briefly describe your application for us, what you're requesting from the board?
For a detached one-car garage.
Okay. And it looks like from the application that you are requesting a 7-foot side yard variance. That's what I'm looking at here, where only 8 exist.
Eight feet, I think.
That's what exists.
8 feet 8 feet exists, and therefore you need a 7-yard, because the setback is 15. Sometimes the side yards are more than 15. Is that what we're looking at here, 15 yards? R40 is 15, okay. Okay, and I do see we've been provided with a plan for the proposed new garage.
Correct.
Let me ask you this, what is the necessity for the garage at that location as opposed to somewhere else on the property?
It makes most sense, because it's the end of my driveway. In the septic, I got a pump septic system on the left-hand side of my house. There's all ledge over there anyways. I couldn't put it over there.
I do see septic there, and the
Yeah,
fields have to
yes.
be close by.
So my house is here, my driveway's here, and I went to the garage straight ahead.
Straight ahead,
Correct,
okay.
correct.
Now, could you put the garage a little bit off the property line a little bit more? I do see a wellhead there, though.
No, yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Want to keep it to the right as far as possible.
Okay.
What separates your yard from the neighbor's yard? Is there a
Nothing.
fence or?
No, just woods. Like, just there's no border. Just my lawn meets his lawn.
What is the
Actually, he
estimate?
has woods, actually.
Okay, what is the estimated distance between your house or the proposed garage to the neighbor's physical house and the next door?
Oh, far,
next door?
probably 100 feet. Good 100 feet.
Tom, is there a designated by code distance that the building has to keep away from the wellhead?
The health department sets regulations for that. I'm not sure if it's 5 or 10 feet. Yeah.
Like 10 feet? Okay. So you would have the option of going maybe a little bit closer that way, away from the property line, if so be. You feel that this proposed location is the best spot for it?
Yes, just that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the applicant worked with me and Steve in our planning and engineering department. He's got steep slopes
Ah,
on the property as well, and he would be getting into permit with the planning department, you know, with the slopes if we're not in this location.
okay. So you seem to feel that this is kind of a reasonable location for it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if a house or another structure were very close on this property line, it could be more of an issue, but you're saying the house, the adjoining property owner's house is like 100 feet from your property line?
Correct.
Has the adjoining owner approached you with any comments regarding this?
I post him, actually. He says
And-
do whatever, pretty much do whatever I want, as long as I'm not on his property.
Right.
He-
That's a reasonable request.
He's actually the original owner of the house. He bought the house in 74. 74, 75.
This garage is gonna be on slab,
Correct.
no basement,
No basement.
no second floor?
Yes, storage.
I was gonna say, I see stairs going
Storage.
up, but it seems to be tight up there.
Yeah, that was my only downfall. I don't know if I can go up higher, like 2 feet higher.
What's 15 feet to the midpoint, Tom?
15, yes.
That's what proposed. That's the maximum height.
It is 15.
That's maximum height, 15 feet.
4.5, 5 feet up in the attic?
What's that?
Like 4 or 5 feet up in the attic?
That he has
Yeah.
with the proposed?
Yeah? Roughly, right?
How much of a variance is he asking for?
So it's about 4 feet.
Yeah, yeah.
Underside of the
Collar
column.
time, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Makes it tough to walk in.
Yeah.
This, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. You're gonna have electric out there?
Not right away. No power right away.
But you will eventually.
I'm gonna put the conduit in, but I got 100 amp service, but I have 2 watt going to my house. I can change it to 150, but I gotta change my inside of my house first.
Okay.
So I'm gonna run all the conduit, but I'm not gonna do the electricity right away.
So in
I'll
other
do
words-
the garage, and eventually when I change my
So in other words, you're gonna upgrade eventually
My-
your own house
panel box in my house
and
to
then
150.
turn around, put a sub panel in your main house to the
to the garage. Correct.
No plumbing is anticipated for
plumbing,
this?
no
There's no bathrooms,
No,
anything like
no,
that?
no.
Is the siding of the garage gonna match the existing house?
House, yes. Yeah.
So it looks consistent?
Sister,
Roof
yeah.
it
And
and-
the roof is gonna be 3% pitch like the house is.
Any additional questions of the applicant? Any further discussions we want to have? Does anybody here in the audience wish to speak in regard to this application? Any comments, questions? No? Sir, did you have anything else you wanted to offer at this point in time?
No, I think that's it. I think we got it pretty much covered.
Okay. Last chance for any questions or concerns?
Sorry, I was digging through here a little bit. Was there a question about the neighbor? Has it been discussed with the neighbor?
Yes. Yeah.
They've been notified,
Actually, I
right?
approached that.
And he said he had no problem
Oh,
with
yeah. he
what
said-
you proposed?
Whatever, yes.
And keep in mind, all the neighbors have been properly noticed,
Notified,
surrounded.
yes,
So
yes.
everybody knows, you know,
Yes.
what you're doing, what's going on, just
Yeah.
so everybody could comment
Correct.
if they wanted to. Okay. Any further questions or comments of the applicant? No? Between us? Okay, I'll take a motion for the type of action.
I'll make a motion type 2.
Second?
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. I'm sorry, Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion as to whether we're going to accept the application or deny?
I'll
I
make-
move we accept the application.
Second?
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir, your application's been granted.
Oh, awesome. That's it?
That's it?
Thanks, guys.
You're done.
It's your building permit, it's your building permit.
And I was all nervous.
Okay, you did very well, yes.
Listen, you're not the first one.
Have a good New Year.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda this evening is that of Janet Stroh. This is an application for an area variance to replace and enlarge an existing deck to an existing one-family dwelling in an R40 residential district at 6 Knoll Court, Amawalk. Ma'am, if you could just give us your name and address, please?
Janet Stroh, 6 Newell Court, Amawalk, New York.
Okay, could you briefly describe your application for us?
I'm applying for a variance to replace an existing deck and make it 3 feet larger, 3 feet out and 3 feet wider.
It looks like the variance we need here is 2.6 feet, if I read this correctly, Tom? 2.6 feet. Now, this says it's a required 30-yard setback, 30-foot setback.
Yes, that's what I was told.
Let me see here. But this is an R40. Wouldn't it be a 15-yard setback?
Front yard versus side yard.
It's attached to the house, it's considered part of the principal.
Oh, I see. Okay, because this isn't a front yard, right? So it's not in the front. This is still side yard, but attached to the house. I see.
But this is an existing non-conforming, because we only have 28.4.
Yes, that's what it looks like to me. This is pre-existing non-conform. They want to increase the non-conforming.
Oh, yeah, the existing one was,
Is non-conforming? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. I see it. Okay. So are you tearing down the entire deck you have and rebuilding it, or are you just adding on to the
No,
existing
we're
deck?
taking down the entire deck that's there and putting a brand new one
I'm
on.
putting a brand new one in, okay.
Now, Tom, if this board grants the variance, they will go through the proper permits and inspection, so forth, so on, correct?
Footings, proper attaching to the house, all that kind of good stuff that goes along with. Yeah, it looks like the footers go down 42 inches and et cetera, et cetera. How close is your neighbor to the side of your property with the deck in the home?
That's it? Right in?
The garage itself, the house itself,
Yeah, the house and the garage.
Far.
probably 58 to 60, well, at least 60 feet.
Okay. And what's between you and the neighbor's home? Is there lawn, trees?
Some pine trees.
A wire fence and some shrubbery,
Okay.
wild shrubbery.
Yeah, that's his fence line right here.
Same question for you. Have you spoken with the neighbor? Have they expressed any comments?
No problem. In the summer, we can't see each other, you know.
When there's leaves on the trees, you can't see each
Correct.
other.
Okay.
It looks like there's a concrete patio next to the deck here.
You're right, underneath it.
Right.
And it extends it a little to the left,
Right.
Yes.
yeah.
You're getting a little close to the septic tank, but we shouldn't have any problems with that. I guess
Well,
we're,
the deck had to be a certain feet because they told me I couldn't go, I don't know how many feet what the architect said.
The wire, and we probably could make the wire 20 feet because we would be too close to
To the septic tank that's in the ground.
and then the fields are behind, I see there. Okay.
The fields are further down the property.
Right. So 30 feet is, in my opinion, 30 feet is needed. They've only requesting 2.6. Very minor, so,
We have definitely granted much greater variances.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the board before I go out to the audience?
Existing septic.
No, no questions.
No, okay. Anybody here wish to speak in regard to this application? Any comments, questions? No? Okay. Ma'am, do you have anything further to offer at this point in time? No? Okay. Any other questions from the board? Any other discussions? Okay, are we prepared to vote?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion. Can we have a motion in regard to the action?
I'll make a motion as a type 2.
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Who made that
I
motion?
did.
Ron?
Ronnie.
Thank you. Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Kinestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we have a motion as to whether we're going to accept or deny the application?
I'll make a motion to accept the application.
I'll second it.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Mr. Polito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harding?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Kinestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, your application is granted.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Next item on the agenda this evening is that of the Christopher Columbus Society of Yorktown, Inc. This is an application for an area variance for an existing deck and wood steps to an existing one-story frame building in an R40 residential district at 118 Mayapack Avenue, Granite Springs. And sir, if you could just give us your name, how you represent the applicant, and your address, please.
Good evening, my name is William Besharat, I'm representing the applicant. We are here with me too, the representative from the Christopher Columbus Society. William Besharat, representing the Christopher Columbus Society, and members of the board are here with me tonight too.
Okay, thank you.
You are.
Could you briefly describe your application for us?
Okay, what we are here is requesting a variance for existing deck and and the steps for that on the building. As they exist, and they have existed for a very long time. I mean, very long time. None of the members remember them being built.
None of this is recently constructed?
No.
This is all
no.
pre-existing?
That's the record that we have of it like it existed. What happened is there was a shed on the property that was encroaching on the setbacks, and the town came and said you have to relocate the shed. It's a plastic storage shed that they needed because there's no storage in this building, and they went and relocated the shed to comply with the setbacks. But while the building inspector was there, he said, "Hey, those decks are not on record, so therefore you have to legalize them." And like, okay, I mean, they've been around for a very, very long time. And that's why we're here. We end up with getting a violation, went to the town board and got a referral to allow us to come to the zoning board and discuss it with the zoning board. As these decks exist, they are the main entrance to the building. There is no other way around it. And the same, the steps and the other side towards the front, towards Mayapack Avenue, is the only means, the secondary means of egress out of the building. So those they must stay. We desperately need them, and they serve a purpose. If we are to remove them, that means the building will cease to comply in use and safety, etc., etc. Like I said, these were constructed back in let's say 60, 65, whatever, which is very long time ago, and this just came about in relationship to the shed.
Okay.
What kind of door do you have coming off the
What
deck?
kind of what?
Door going in?
Standard steel door on both sides.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Say that again?
The wood deck, can you get into the building from the wood deck?
Yes, it's the main entrance with a standard swinging steel
Swinging
door.
door, okay.
Yes.
What is the condition of that deck?
It's completely in excellent condition, structurally safe, and it's really in very good condition. There's nothing wrong with it.
Now, Tommy, question regarding this deck in the sense of the code back then. Have you looked at it all? Does it meet current safety issues?
I haven't seen a proposed plan to legalize the deck, to do a permit to legalize the deck yet. So if the board, if the application is granted and they come to me for a permit, I'll look at the proposal and how it relates to the code and that.
But would they be required to do that?
I don't know, they may deem it compliant with today's code and, and legalize it under the 2015 code, which we are currently enforcing. I don't know what.
So, but in other words, if we were to approve the variance, there's nothing that then requires them to get a building, they could just stop right there. They don't-
They would apply for a building permit.
Okay.
Even though it's pre-existing, they still have to apply for a building permit and comply with current code?
They have to draw the deck for time, it's
Or
okay.
they can prove that it meets a code, at a previous code, I'll investigate that.
Okay.
Okay.
What are the condition of the wood steps?
The wooden steps are a little bit older, but very safe. There's, like they're aesthetically not the prettiest thing, but structurally there is nothing wrong with them.
And the railing is?
And the railings too. Although, you know, like the railings, again, I think they were there for aesthetics. A certain height of the deck in the current code doesn't require a railing, but the railings are there, and they do comply with the 4-inch spacing between them. But we will address that with Tommy and the plans, and we'll make sure that everything is 100% in compliance. And I think we can comply with current standards on the decks, not go into the old existing code.
It looks like there's about 4 steps up to the deck. Does that make sense?
They're like 6-inch steps, kind of, they're very shallow steps.
Okay.
And I think the first step is kind of buried in the ground, but the surveyor showed it online. So I think there's about like 3 steps.
There's two decks, which one are you referring to?
He's referring to this
The
one.
larger or these?
The larger one that's listed as
Okay, yeah.
wood deck, yeah.
There are 3 steps going up, and then there's, from the deck, it's just 1 step up to the building.
Into the building. And so the deck is not far off the ground here?
No, it's just like 18 inches, 20 inches, somewhere around there. That's about it. It's not high up in the air.
Okay, okay. And then in the front of the building, well, when you first drive into the building, how many steps up there? Maybe 4
The
or 5?
same thing, 3-4 steps. It's
3,
the
4,
same
5.
thing. It's like maybe,
4 to 5 steps there, but we need that's, if there was a fire in that building and someone was in that back room, you need a.
You need 2 forms of
yeah,
egress.
it's the secondary. The secondary means of egress.
Yeah, I mean,
You do need a
yeah. Yeah, I mean, for us, obviously, safety is a major issue here,
Correct.
especially with the decks, to make sure they're secure and safe and everything else. Okay. Is there another set of steps on the side of the house by the wellhead?
No.
Okay, it looks like there's a couple of lines there. I wasn't sure if that represents steps or not.
That's, maybe looking at an old drawing.
No,
Yeah, it does look like, yeah, right
Oh,
there.
no, those are, there's no door there. I see, no, he's talking about these steps. No, this is more like, it's part of the landscape, kind of.
Okay,
You know, the curving, this whole area is all curved areas. not
just
really-
curious,
yeah,
it
just curving.
looks like
Yeah.
steps there.
No, there's no door there, no.
Right. Okay. And I see your wellhead is right there, kind of in the nook of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you got an AC unit there, too. Okay.
So are there any plans to do any renovation to these 2 decks once?
No, and only if we see anything deemed to be as repair and reinforcement, which is initial investigation of it did not need that, but if we need it, there will be no reconstruction of any. We're just gonna fix them and make them look good and make sure that they are safe 100%, with no question about it.
The post, the wood post and wire fence that is on 2 sides of the property right next to the building.
Correct.
How high is that fence, and is it a screening fence, or what kind of fence are we talking about
Yeah,
there?
we put it up basically to, when you're sitting on the deck, it cuts down the noise to our neighbors. So that was the reason why we put up, erected these 6 fence, and it's a 6-foot fence.
6-foot fence.
It's a 6-foot high
6
fence?
foot, yes.
And it's wire, does it have like slats in it, you know, where you have like,
It's almost solid fence.
Pole, and it's like a stockade fence.
okay, oh, I see, like a wood stockade fence?
Yeah, uh-huh, yeah.
I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he has the good side, the neighbor.
That's being a good neighbor.
That was nice of you, yes. Okay. How close is the neighbor's home to the wood deck, the large wood deck?
I would,
60 to 75.
60 to 75 feet, the closest one.
Okay, once again, have you spoken to the neighbors about this? Have they had any discussions with you?
Yes, he's very amicable with us, so
Okay.
we don't have a problem. We did speak with him about it.
The only available the neighbor to speak with had absolutely no problem with that.
Okay, okay. His building sits very close to the property line, but it's
Correct.
pre-existing. I mean, this wouldn't be approved, obviously, today for being built, something like this.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, big time.
Any other questions for the applicant? Any discussions we want to have?
Tom, what's the date of zoning here?
When was that building constructed?
No, when did our code start?
The current
Oh,
code is,
back in the 30s.
45? Okay. No question.
Tom, you able to Google that and see it in a sky?
Yeah, we can see
Could I see it just quickly? Thank you. Yeah. What did I? Right. Thank you. Need that comment. Any problems with the neighbors? I mean, since this is a residential neighborhood and this is kind of a non-residential use,
As far as I know, and they know, there's only one neighbor in the back, and she wouldn't talk to anybody. They haven't spoken to her in years, but she was always against the existence of this building, and there's nothing could be done about it.
it's pre-existing.
It's pre-existing, exactly. And like I said, she hasn't been around, nobody seen her or talked to her. She has not been even coming and yelling at them for the past few months, year or two.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it that long. But the other neighbor, it's really friendly, and he said, yeah, I got no problem with it.
Right.
That's the only neighbor that they were able to adjacent immediately to it.
Right.
One across the street, we have, we're friendly with also.
Okay, okay, so we're gonna get to the audience in a minute, okay? So there's no expansion, you're just getting approved what you have that is pre-existing?
Exactly, there would be zero expansion.
Okay. And that shed you were talking about, that's right in the center there, that was moved, I guess, from the property line closer to the center of the property?
Yes, no, it would have to be, to exist past the front setback, the front of the building. That's the rule, and that's what was moved, and now it is completely in compliance with the setbacks too.
Right, not in the front yard, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
When you have a function, how many people do you usually have?
It depends on the type of function we're having, but,
A good one.
maybe 15, 20.
Oh, okay. So it's not like 50, 75
Well,
people?
we have 30 members, so
Okay.
if 2/3 show up, that's a good show.
That's good, all right.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions of the applicant or any discussions amongst the board here? Do either of you have any other further comments or questions?
No.
issues? Does anybody here in the audience wish to speak in regard to this application? Yeah, sir, yeah, please come up and just give us your name and address, and please give us your comments in regard to it.
Yes. My name is
If
Michael.
you could just speak into the microphone, I'm sorry, you can move that microphone around a little bit, yeah, we just want to make sure we're getting everything on the record. Thank you.
My name's Michael Servadidio. Address is 279 Main Street, Eastchester. And I'm representing Miss Louise Smith, the neighbor bordering the area with the proposed variance.
Where is her property?
It is, and I'll illustrate it with some pictures, it's directly behind, I have my own pictures.
Behind the
I have my own pictures. Please don't do that. I'll let you talk, I'll let you talk.
Just trying to help this one.
Okay, so it's behind the property. I think from our Google map, we saw like there's a pool on the
In fact-
property?
If, I'd just like to distribute these to the board if you're on.
Sure.
There's sufficient copies here. This shows it's directly behind. And this also shows the other border. So, my client, Miss Smith's home is right.
Yeah, please speak in the microphone,
You're right,
sir.
sorry, that wouldn't happen. So my client's home is right next to the proposed variance on Mailpack Avenue. And I understand my client had previously forwarded pictures to the building inspector, but I've supplied these pictures with you to further illustrate this. One picture shows that large porch and the slat fence that was put up to kind of hide and obscure that porch. Directly behind that slat fence, or whatever that barrier is my client's property. The front of the building illustrates the small little porch on the front of the building, and you can see the fence that outlines my client's property. So even that small unit in the front of the building, that small illegal porch in the front of the building, is also close to the property line. There too, some sort of slat fence was put up to obscure from people peering at that particular illegal structure. I think that these additions will in effect afford another venue, even another room, to hold the continual parties that this organization schedules. And it is quite an active parcel of property. This proximity will subject my client and her family and visitors to the continual loud noise that these parties generate when attended by a large group of people. The noise continues for hours on the party days, and sometimes goes on well into the night. Along with the blast of noise and music comes the smoke from cigars and cigarettes, and from the dozens of cars that park on this small parcel of land. As these cars enter and exit the premises. And there's only that small driveway for ingress and egress. The property wasn't designed for this sort of use. If you grant the variance, you will cause larger gatherings because more people can fit on the premises that are already used to the maximum. The parking area is filled to capacity, a small lot, when a party is held. More people mean more illegal parking, more overflow onto scenic Mailpack Avenue, plus longer and louder and more frequent parties. The facilities at the site, including water and waste facilities, will continue to be overburdened even more. I understand this month alone there were 3 gatherings, parties, whatever there were. So we're on schedule for frequent use of these premises, this small plot of land that was never intended for this purpose. In fact, it was originally intended for religious services, which I presume would be held once every Sunday. One of the pictures I've given you shows that large grill, which is right next to the illegal wooden deck, which is attached to a wooden building that's about 100 years old. As the use of the grill increases, so does the possible fire hazard. All it takes is a spark. Have we sadly witnessed in the western United States and even in southern Australia. The end result for my client is more worry and fear of what comes next. What's the next illegal structure to be placed on those premises? And something that was wrong last year or the year before doesn't make it right this year. Just because something has been put into place doesn't necessitate it then becomes acceptable and legal. And even doesn't assuage the threat to life and property that this particular installation poses. Miss Smith is a senior citizen, and she has to face a large contingent of people that are members of this society. It could be a traumatic experience, and she has confronted them a few times by herself, and that took quite a bit of courage, regardless of what you think the relationship is between men and women and so on and so forth. I think the final sad misfortune of all of this is the loss of the value of Miss Smith's home, her property, her home. Who wants to buy a house that is next to a virtually perpetual party, a perpetually loud party? There's no escape. I ask that you do not approve this variance. Thank you for your attention to this.
Yeah, sir, before you leave, just a question for you. You had mentioned something about new buildings or new structures or something adding to it. The applicant made the argument or stated that there is nothing new, that everything here is pre-existing. Do you know of anything that's being added to the property that we don't know of?
I don't know at this point, and yet I'm looking at 2 illegal structures right now, and people are saying, well, they existed and let that be. So now, maybe next year we'll meet again and we'll find another illegal structure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue here, is pre-existing. I mean, what do you propose, that they not be allowed to use the facility?
I'm saying that certainly the large deck to the rear of the property should be removed. It's a wooden deck on a wooden building. There's really no need for it if this organization is carrying on other charitable events. There's really no need for that large outdoor deck that might be used for barbecues or something. It doesn't seem to fit the exempt charitable purpose of the organization.
They would still need a form of egress, though, out of the building over there, because you do need two forms of egress for fire safety issues. And keep in mind, even if it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, still have to meet fire code and things like that, obviously.
Well, then the simple answer would be steel steps, properly and attractively installed in two areas, and they would be much smaller, and we would hope much less of an eyesore than the two existing structures. And they would be steel, and therefore would fit, hopefully, the building inspector's code on that.
Now, I do have a couple questions here. Your client, her house is how far away from the property line that is there right now?
Okay, for the porch in the back, it's right up against it. I don't know, maybe
Her porch or this porch you're talking about?
that the porch in the photo
Yeah.
that has the grill in front of it is right up against.
That I realize, but how far is her house away from the privacy fence?
Well, I'm not good at distance. I'd say maybe 15 feet.
Did you say 15 feet or
15.
No, okay, yeah. I mean, we have a Google, sky view of this.
Yeah,
It's much further than 15 feet. That's not, yeah.
fine.
I mean, what do you say, Tom?
Assuming Google's accurate.
Well, it's a picture, it's a sky picture,
Yeah.
It's a satellite picture.
Right,
Now, the other thing that you have mentioned, because I have quite a few questions here,
sure.
in the sense of noise. What hour are we talking about? Are we talking about at 10 o'clock at night, or are we talking about 2 o'clock in the morning that the noise, this party goes on, or these parties go on, or events?
My understanding is that the parties go on beyond midnight. And in the past, it had been into the wee hours.
Okay. Now, what's stopping them to take down the deck and put a patio in? And still have events there? What's stopping them from doing that?
I don't know. You'd have to give them a variance. You would think it would have to fit the use of the property itself. I mean, it was originally granted, the property itself was granted for charitable purposes. You'd wonder if that patio would fit the charitable purposes of the organization. You'd have to be careful of overuse.
Okay,
You're
and-
looking at one small driveway and one small piece of property.
Right.
And then people overflowing onto Mailpack Avenue, which is a two-lane highway.
Well aware.
Put a car on it, and you're a one-lane highway. And regardless of the speed limit, people hit 60, 70, and beyond miles per hour.
Well aware of the traffic pattern through there.
How long has your client owned the property?
As I recall, it was 1965. Her roots in this town go way back. In fact, her father had purchased the surrounding property back in 1931. This is what gives a community a backbone and a spirit when people stay in a community and attempt to live within its bounds. She raised her children here. She occupied the home with her husband. She would like to stay there the remainder of her life as opposed to being removed due to circumstances beyond her control.
Has your client raised the issue with the police department, the noise and smoke and stuff like that?
Yes, my client did, as I recall, call the police department. I only recall one time, and the police officer said, well, just try to get along. So we're going to tell a woman who's a senior citizen and a petite woman to stand up to perhaps 30 members and try to get along. Do you think that would work? Would that work for the women in your family?
Now, in the sense of the noise being generated, is there live music there? Is it a DJ, producing this music, or is it just a gathering of people just talking?
My understanding is there is music. I've never witnessed the late night parties, so I haven't witnessed that. I wouldn't attest to that one way or another. But the music does definitely blast on over. And you've got to remember, we're still up against the building itself.
Right, it's unfortunate that the building itself is right on the corner of the property line without any setbacks at the time.
Well,
Non-conforming.
again, you know, the original use was, who knows, you know, once on a Sunday for religious purposes. Now the entire thing has shifted to this situation where in January alone, we had 3 gatherings. 20-some people, perhaps.
Okay, Mal, my question would be, even though it's not in front of us, you know, it doesn't comply to us in the sense of what type of gatherings were there. Okay, you may have a gathering, and you're talking about January, they're all indoors. You know,
Yeah.
what type of noise can it be in the sense
Well-
of inside 4 walls?
I could bounce that back. I mean, you're looking at a clapboard property, clapboard building. Who knows what the insulation factor is? Who knows what the R factor is? Who knows if there's any sound deadening? Doesn't sound to be that way. I've encountered buildings that were made soundproof. They actually put some sort of emulsion into the walls and the foundation to contain the sound so that their neighbors wouldn't be blown out with the loud and continuous parties. Apparently that attempt hasn't been made here. Can you retrofit a building like this? You're going to start to clean out the clapboard and try to squirt in some sort of insulating material?
Just a question, how long ago were the decks put on the building?
Yeah, please, you'll have a chance to respond at the end, yep.
Do you know how long they've been in the building, the Columbus Society?
I thought I saw a deed that transferred over in the 70s, 72. But I'm not 100% sure of that.
Now, even though you did mention that her father purchased land surrounding the area, but how long has your client been a actually resident where she is now?
1964,
Thank you.
that house was built.
So that house was built after this house was built?
Yeah.
After the applicant's building was built?
So the deck was probably there.
Yeah, there was a church there. I don't know if anyone is familiar with that area. It was the Church of the Good Shepherd occupied that space.
Deck was built after,
That church moved down the street,
so was the deck.
and the original church building was torn down.
65.
I understand the building somehow passed to the American Legion. They held meetings there over the years, and then somehow passed to the Columbus Society. The deed itself is very peculiar. It's supposed to revert to the original owners of the property once the Episcopal Church vacated the premises. So it's very curious how a deed was somewhere along the way was grafted such that ownership could have passed through this succession. That's another mystery. I guess that's not a mystery for this board.
Yeah, that's not something that's before us at this point in time.
My client had complained in the past. In fact, I don't know if it was with you, sir, had mentioned it to the building department, and they bounced her request right back to her, saying she should take action. So I don't know what that means, that she has to bring a motion before the town or something. It just seems like no one stood with her, from the police to someone in the building department and so on and so forth. They just bounced it right back to her.
I mean, if there's not a violation on the property, I don't know what,
Well,
town can do about that.
yeah. Well, we do have a violation. We're looking for a variance, and we're looking for a variance that's going to cause misuse of the premises and has caused misuse. I don't know if we could wait for an accident to occur on Mahopac Avenue. I mean, that could happen.
Okay. Any other questions, this gentleman? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Yes, sir, can you please come up? Could you give us your name and address?
My name is Ed Dowdle. We are the neighbors that live directly across the street. And we've been in our house since 1988, 87, somewhere in there. 87, we were living in sin, and then we were actually married in 88.
It's on the record now.
It's on the record. It's on the record. You'll let my minister know. Actually, he married us, so it's okay.
Sand and brimstone and fire.
You know, I can only give it to you from our perspective, and I understand that Mrs. Smith's property is probably is very close to the line. They're much closer to the building than we are across the street. I can tell you that years ago we did have an initial issue with some parties that were going on, and there was some loud music and some bass, stuff that was reverberating. And these guys were very, yes, they were very responsive to that. I would say, we personally now, again, we're not as close to the property as Mrs. Smith is, but we have not been experiencing that kind of, reverberation. I guess the reason I'm standing here right now is I just want to make sure that everything is really above board and transparent. And a couple of things resonated with me. One was a comment that was made that there was no contact with Mrs. Smith for years and years. And I believe she's been it's been very contentious in very recent days. So that was kind of weird. And then the business about the deck, I don't know what the rules are regarding the deck, but maybe it's the kind of thing like, I know people sometimes build a house and then you have to leave the walls up because that's the pre-existing structure and you can build within that structure. But the reason that deck is in really good shape is because it was only actually rebuilt a couple of years ago. I mean, it was a weekend that we could hear all the banging, and it was just a beautiful deck that got put on. I don't know how big the old deck was, but the deck is in good shape because it's fairly new. So, that was another thing that concerned me. And beyond that, I mean, like I said, they've been good neighbors. We just want to make sure that everything stays above board. Of course, to be perfectly frank and honest, I would say, the thing that you worry about, you're in a residential neighborhood, and, we wish everybody success, but, we wouldn't want to say, okay, you guys are doing really well, and now you're going to have, 100 members with 100 cars parking. And it's like, so success is dangerous, I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, it's the Christopher Columbus Society of Yorktown here in Somers. How do you just maintain, I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice though, maintain that control and that level? I know that, I don't know about the zoning for rental, but I don't know, is rental permitted? I know that on the website there's rental forms, or is it really just for use of the members? So that was the last point I wanted to bring up, just that there's clarity. So, but in general, they've been a decent neighbor. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I do have a couple questions for you,
Yeah.
even though it doesn't comply to the variance that is being proposed in front of us. In the sense of traffic-wise, when people are coming out, do you ever hear anybody slamming on their brakes in the sense of maybe a near accident or something like that? Because there was concern about traffic.
It can be busy when there's guys there. I mean, because it's tough, because you've got that narrow driveway that has the stone wall on the one side and stone wall on the other. It's hard to get in and out. It's hard to see. If there's snow, it's difficult with the ice to get up and down through to their driveway.
I'll rephrase my
Screeching
question.
brakes, I don't know if I've heard screeching
I'll
brakes,
rephrase
but
my question. To the best of your knowledge, has there been any accidents there since you've been living there?
not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any other questions for this gentleman?
I'm sorry. Parking. Oh, no, just the fact that you have to be careful with more people.
That's not my matter.
Do you want to say something?
No, I just on that, just to say, they do utilize the street when they have, I believe, I'm guessing a general membership meeting, when they have a lot of people show up, they park all along the street. I know that originally there had been signs there saying, because of the nature of this road, again.
That there was no
that there wasn't
parking, but parking is
But they have
done.
a tendency to park out there, and that gets a little hairy.
Okay,
I've
so you're just,
seen that.
okay, just in
Now, I
case.
do have a question. Since your significant other, I'm assuming that's who it
Wife.
is, brought this up. Is there no parking signs there
No,
through that
they were all
area?
They were all taken down a while ago. I don't really know why that happened or when, but a little while. I'd say a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, they just all disappeared.
Okay, yeah, we should really be commenting at the microphone. I'm just going to repeat that.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right.
No, I'll just repeat that. Someone from the audience mentioned that there was parking along the road here, the active road, And
Yes.
that one time, there may have been no parking signs.
Yeah, there
They're not
definitely
there
were
now.
no parking signs at one time.
Okay, but that's not now. Okay.
Right.
And you say once in a while you see cars parked along the road there,
Yes,
I guess?
sure. It's only so much room, and there's, for the membership, so they do have to park somewhere.
Okay, all right.
All right, I guess that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else here wish to speak regarding the application? Yes, ma'am, please come up. You can just give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Rabideau. I'm Louise Smith's daughter, and I live at 120 Mahopac Avenue. And I am against this variance completely because I live there. I see what goes on with the noise. We like to sit out on our porch, and we put up with a lot of cigar smoking, cigarette smoking all the time, and I have very bad lung problems just from them sitting all on their deck because they tend to use that deck as a gathering when they get together. It's something I have to breathe in all the time, and even though it's further than you think, the smell of it is closer to my lungs when I'm breathing, and the guys tend to hang out there. Now, my mom was there, I think it was a year ago. I wanted to go with her, and she's a strong Italian woman. She was going on her own. The men wouldn't even stand up to shake her hand. They were very rude to her, and she's very proud of her Italian heritage. They're supposed to be teaching about Italian heritage. Our whole family was raised from Italy with Italian heritage and proud of it. And for them to treat her like that, not like a lady, she's 89 years old, to treat her rude. When she came back, she was so upset the way they spoke to her and had no courtesy to a woman. I was very upset with that. The noise factor, there is a lot of noise. They're always laughing and yelling on their porch. I hear it during the summertime when I'm, walking around. When they've had their parties now, that this January, they leave late, so the lights are all shining our way. We can see them all pulling up. We hear all the doors slamming as they're leaving. That, to me, after midnight, is a lot of noise. And the other thing I wanted to state, it's a little embarrassing, but this summer I was walking around the property because I try to do trimming for my mom, and they had a party. It wasn't the men. They rented out for parties. And this young guy comes out on that side porch that they have. There's a platform for guys to hang out and smoke. And he pulls his thing out and is urinating right through the cracks. Now, they put up that little stockade fence there. It's so hodgepodge because you see the hole between the stockade fence. And it's like, what do I do? I'm a woman, and I just turned away in embarrassment to see him urinating off the deck. And as a woman, it's all men there. It's me and my mom, and there's just all men there, partying, acting like, I hate to use the word cavone, but like a bunch of cavones. I'm not at all in agreement to this variance, because it just brings more men in there. They used to have a small step, a little landing with a step, before they put that deck. And all of a sudden, they start building this whole new deck without permission, nothing. This big, beautiful deck, which I don't know how they're getting away with this stuff. And even the little one that they have on the side, they put up this hodgepodge little fence against it, which looks terrible. If you go there and see the property in person, you'll see what I mean. It looks like a shack. Mahopac Avenue is supposed to be a scenic road. It definitely is not scenic, the way they keep it. Even cutting the lawn. I mean, you get a guy once in a while cutting the grass. Grass is so long. Once in a while, you see a guy with a wacky weeder just trying to cut the lawn with that, not with a lawnmower. And, you look at them. I'm out there trying to keep my mom's place nice. She's very proud of it. We're very proud of our town, because the Servideo family has lived in this town since 1931. I grew up in this town, went through the school system in this town. My kids grew up in this town. I mean, to be treated the way my mom was treated by these guys was terrible. Not even an apology, nothing. For them to lie and say they haven't had any talks with my mom, that's a lie. My mom was over there. My mom's had to go over there. They don't come over here to us. We've been nice enough when they did their roof. They asked my dad when he was alive if they can get on our side to take off their roof. And my dad said, that's fine, because they had to put on a new roof, but you have to clean up every day. Well, We have tons of pictures. This is going off the subject of the variance, but I just want you to know what they're all about. We said yes, they can. They took down my dad's fence, they took all the roof off, dumped it all on. They didn't clean up. They let it all build up, and our property looked like crap because of them not treating this property like it should be treated. It's a hangout club, and they rent it out for parties, because I see the young men there. And if they're not there, they're there barbecuing, smoking their cigars and smoking their cigarettes and having a jolly old time. I mean, if it's music, it's only the music when they rent it out for young people. It's not the music when they're there. When they're there, it's just loudness, you hear it. And they're there till late. We're putting up with a lot. I'm like fed up with it. And I feel bad for my mom. At her age, she's got a lot of oomph in her to go over there by herself, and was shocked the way men treated her. They have no respect towards women. So,
Now, I do have a question for you.
sure.
What happens if we deny this application and it gets torn down?
Mm-hmm.
What's stopping them from going outside in a grass area, putting up lawn chairs, and doing the exact same thing?
I would complain about it. I'd call the police.
Or they could build a
I get the
patio
police
too.
involved. I know some of the police. I get them involved because they're being loud.
'Cause
We have a lot of property too. And we have a huge family that comes over. We're very compliant to sound and other neighbors. And yes, they say they're buddy-buddy with Dennis, who's our friend too. He didn't show up today, but it is what it is. Like, he realizes his property value is down if this variance is allowed because we're closer to his land. But he doesn't want to make enemies with them because they're right there. I don't care if, at this point I don't care. I grew up here. We put up with it enough and I'm done. I'm like done with it. And I feel they should just have legally, like, steps coming down. That's all they need. They don't need a deck. They want to go in their building and have their meetings, fine. Just have steps coming down. You don't need a whole patio to have fun and be outside. This is supposed to be for meetings, and it supposedly is supposed to be to educate you on your Italian heritage, which that's not happening. I mean, I can't say for a fact I'm not in there with the men. I mean, I don't know what they're doing there, but they definitely rent it out to parties, I know that.
Thank you. Now, Tommy, there is a noise ordinance in the town, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what is the curfew for noise?
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay,
It's enforceable by the police.
okay, you figure what, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock?
Construction activity noise.
I'm sorry?
Unless it's construction activity noise, then I can get involved.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question? This picture that the attorney gave us, just so I'm perfectly clear, this is looking at this structure from Mayapack Avenue.
Right.
Your house is on the right.
No, my house would be on the other side.
On the
not
left.
there. Dennis's house is on the right. Jill and Ed that just came up, their house is right where I was standing when I took the picture.
Okay, so this deck is on the opposite side of their structure.
big deck.
The big deck is on the opposite side, but you're saying they use the other deck as well?
They're using the other deck, the platform to stand on when they have parties.
Okay.
And
You mean that little one in front of the door
the
there?
little one in front of the door, that little platform. And they put up a little stockade fence.
That's gotta be a very small deck.
Yeah.
I would think not more than one or two people could fit on
Two
that.
people can fit on there.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
been two people. They're hanging out, smoking, having a
I
cigarette.
think you're talking about that one
Yeah,
there.
right there.
This is the big deck. There's a little
Ma'am?
platform deck here where they go out to smoke.
Did you have I heard a couple people mention the privacy fence. I would assume that would be something you were in favor of, but you seem to have an issue with
Oh, if you see
it.
the privacy fence, it's a joke.
So you're suggesting
It's
that
all
they could have a
separated.
better
I don't know if
privacy
it's one of
fence?
the pictures, but the privacy fence, the way they hodgepodged it, it's just like
Oh.
they leaned it.
Okay, so you didn't like the construction that they did? Because I would imagine you'd be
I
happy.
don't mind a privacy fence,
to have
if
a
they
privacy
fence the whole
fence.
thing in, so we don't have to look at this thing, even around where, we try to put like pretty gardens, so it's not so ugly, because the roof is coming off,
So-
not the roof, but for the water when it drains down, the drain pipes, the gutters.
So the photo that I have in front of me shows the deck, the larger of the two decks, and then it has privacy fence around it, so I can't.
Yes, that's right next to my mom's fence.
So, and your mom's house from Google Maps appears to be 80 or 90 feet away,
I don't know how many.
which
feet.
the
No,
the
from
attorney
that
said
to
he's
that,
not good at
it's
distance.
It's a distance, her property is right there. I
Yeah,
mean,
but-
when my grandkids come over to play, we play in that lot right there that she has.
On the map, it's at least a factor of 4 or 5 times more than the
Yes,
attorney said it
It's
is.
much more than 15 or 20 feet, but between my mom's house and where the small deck is close.
Okay.
That I'd say is around 15, 20 feet.
Okay,
But the big deck is further away, but not on my mom's side property, it's right against,
and
it's
you
right
have,
against my mom's
and you
side.
have a deck and a barbecue, I presume? At your mom's house?
We have an enclosed porch.
Okay.
We have a barbecue, but it's on my laptop and I grill. I don't grill next to the house. I pull it out of the garage and I grill on the laptop.
Okay, so your issue with the fence is that it could have been constructed better, not that there's a privacy fence.
It's not a privacy fence. I don't know. They call it a privacy fence. It's a stockade fence that was put up not well, but I'm more upset. Yeah, it's an eyesore. You have to go there in person and see this. If you go in person, you'll see what I'm talking about. It needs to be personally looked at yourself, and you be the judge of a scenic road, which Mahopac Avenue is the scenic road. I see the sign every day when I leave. I mean, what's so scenic about this place? They don't keep it nice at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions for this lady? Comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else here wish to speak in regard to this application? Tom, can I see your thing one more time? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Did someone else from the audience want to speak, sir? Did you want to speak again?
Not at this point.
Not at this point? Okay. Okay. Yes, sir, if you'd like to address some of the comments made by
Yes,
the audience?
I would like to address some of the comments. It seems to me the majority of the comments relate to the use of this property and the building, and that's pre-existing non-conforming. We are here for the decks. The decks are necessary items for the main entrance of the building and to the secondary means of egress. Having people hanging out there, outside, inside, the deck is not the issue. You know, they could hang out on the grass, they could hang out on the driveway, they could hang out next to it. It is not the issue. The issue here, we are in front of this board for the existing deck and the existing steps. The use and the operation of this is irrelevant to our application. I do understand the frustration of the neighbors, okay, but we're not here for that. If the police had been called during a loud party and came and they've seen or felt that there is any issue, they would have taken any action to it. As far as I know, there was no action. When I mentioned before the communication with Ms. Smith in the back, I did not say for many years. I said for the past couple of years we haven't. I've been told that they have not been contacted. That's the point I just want to clarify. But like I said, we are here for the decks. If I'm to remove those decks and make them smaller, I will need variances for them, for the smaller deck, because I will be still non-conforming to the setbacks requirement. So regardless of what we do, okay, whether the deck is the 10 by 12 that we have existing and the 3 by 3 platform, if I remove them and make them smaller, I still have to come to this board and ask for a variance for that. Okay? Having the deck that size does not contribute to the use of the outside of the property, as we all aware. It's only 2 feet above, not even 2 feet, it's less than 2 feet above grade. And they can go patio, grass, driveway, anywhere. So, but like I said, we are not here for use variance, we are here for the decks that exist, unfortunately, on the setbacks.
Thank you.
So let's just back up a little bit. So I know in your initial presentation, you indicated that the structures had always been there, 1950s, et cetera. So we heard that this large deck was reconstructed 2 or 3 years ago. So that deck is new.
It's not new, it's been repaired, what was there. There used to be a deck. My understanding from the members, I'm not a member, so I wasn't there when it existed. My understanding that this deck was repaired and brought up to code to make it for safety concerned and to make it prettier and look better. Decks last for a certain amount of time. We're all aware of that. All wooden decks, lucky if you get 25 years out of them, okay, unless you maintain them every year with oil and preservatives. The deck needs to be replaced and repaired, and that's what they did. The issue was not the deck itself, who built it and how it was built. The issue came as these decks, there is no record in the town showing that there was a building permit ever taken for them. Okay, not that they built them recently, that was the record. And we've seen that many times in many buildings, many homes, in residences. There are issues that the older homes, that there's stuff in there that existed, and God only knows who built it, but it was built without a building permit, or it was not addressed back then. The building permits, I remember the email time, like you go in there and you give drawings, whatever it is, yeah, it looks good, fine, do it. And nothing, every item addressed in particular. This much deck, this much steps, this much this much that. So the issue of the decks, those are pre-existed for a long time. They repaired them, they made them safer, and they are necessary for the operation of this building and for the safety of occupants of this building. Again, I'm going to repeat, we are not here for use variance, we are for the decks.
A question for you. At the time the decks were repaired, were they expanded?
That I cannot answer.
Okay, we'll have to. And also another question in kind of with that is, were the decks there when the Christopher Columbus Society started operations or purchased the building?
Let Mark answer that.
Hi, I'm Mark Palancia, the president of the Christopher Columbus Society, going on my 4th year. I'm a member of the Christopher Columbus Society for 7 years. There's been a lot of things said which are not true, okay? And I want to address it because it is aggravating me. Parking on the main street is not done. It may have happened once or twice. It's not a normal situation.
Yes, sir. Please address everything, and if someone
Okay.
else wishes to speak, we'll handle it. We gotta handle it one at a time, though.
Yeah.
Just please address everything to us.
Listen, we try to be very respectful, and we are to all our neighbors. And if it was rented out to a member only, we don't rent it out to anybody that wants to rent the club, first of all.
So members can have events if they want, a private
Yes,
event.
I have Christmas Eve with my family. My mother's 94 years old. We don't even have a radio in the club. So when they're talking about loud music, there isn't any. Okay, there's TVs in there. Yes, do people smoke cigarettes and cigars? I'm sure people on the panel may smoke cigarettes and cigars also. Okay, but we are mindful, and I have mentioned to neighbors, if it's noisy, let us know, because I will definitely address the people, members, to make sure they are mindful of that. Okay. The association took over the club in 1957 for $1.
The
Okay.
Christopher Columbus Society took it over
Correct.
in 1950.
57.
57.
Yes.
Okay.
The decks, we have no idea when they were built. They were in the 50s or 60s or something to that respect. We don't know. Regarding updating the deck, yes, the wood that was rotting, the contractor fixed and put pressure treated, thank you, pressure treated wood. And you could come out and inspect, and you could see that there were areas, there may even be 2-foot or 3-foot areas that were cut out and replaced. It's not a new deck, okay? It's far from it. If it was redone, it would be Trex, honestly. Is it up to code? I would think so. If not, we would definitely look to have that done. Nobody's looking to hurt anybody. We're not looking to be troublemakers with our neighbors. Regarding statements that we disrespected someone's mother, if somebody did, I apologize on their behalf. It wasn't done when I was there, okay, in the 7 years that I'm a member, okay, or I wasn't on the property. I will tell you that I heard regarding doing the roof, which was a fight, they wouldn't let the contractors even take some of the stuff off the property, okay? obviously, there's nothing on their property because their property and our property is clean, okay? 3 years ago, we wanted to fix the foundation, okay? And we did go next door and speak to the young lady's mother. And her answer for us to, we needed to just take down this, I guess you call it chicken fence. It's just a wire fence that's about 6 inches or 9 inches from our structure. So it's right there. And we had a contractor that was just going to reface the stonework so that no animals were getting into the basement, the crawl space of the property. So when they walked next door and asked the woman, can we have a contractor take down the fence temporarily for like an hour or two and have it rectified, she told us to get some skinny Italians to rectify it, to get in between the fence and do it. You're not trying to be a nice neighbor if you're doing that. So we had people working in a 6 or 9 inch area trying to repoint stonework. Ridiculous.
One quick question, sir.
Yes.
While you're here, just the existing footings, the deck was replaced on top of the existing footings. Is that a fair?
It wasn't replaced.
Well, whatever work was done, there was no additional footings added. Is that fair? to
Correct.
say?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So the work that they might have heard being done might have been when they were fixing, repairing the existing, but it was never extended. It was never built bigger or anything of that sort. We're not planning on doing that. We just want it legal. We're not looking to have it illegal. That's not what it's all about. We want it safe and legal, period.
Okay, thank you, sir.
What prompted the application here? Why is the application here?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Why is the application here?
The application was prompted here when the inspection came for the shed, to relocate the shed past the front of the building inspector noticed that, and he said, well, our record doesn't show that there was a building permit taken for those decks.
Right.
And also, I just want to bring to the attention of the board that wire fence is approximately 1 foot on the Christopher Society property, away from the Smiths' property. It's not on their property, it's on the Christopher Society property.
Right.
And this is a current survey that was done recently.
So it seems that you're representing to us that the building, the Christopher Columbus Society's use, and even the decks were sometime in the 50s or 60s before the surrounding houses were built.
Correct.
That's what it seems like to me.
Correct.
If what you're telling me is
I
true.
didn't know when they built their house or purchased their home, to be honest with you.
I heard something mentioned about 1964.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to understand, you know.
And regarding parking, that's ridiculous. It was a church before, so there were cars parked on the property. I think the emissions today are much better than what they were back in the 50s and 60s, as we all know, because we've been there, pretty much everybody on the board. You know, you can only fit so many cars in the first place, and honestly, in the 7 years that I'm a member, we have never parked on the main street, and we don't, okay? There might have been a party or something that it was rented out, and evidently, because I didn't even know about it. I apologize.
Right, because of course if there's.
And it doesn't say illegal parking, evidently, I don't even know, because nobody ever parks there.
Right.
We have a meeting the second Thursday of every month, okay? And we fit the 10, 15 cars in the parking lot.
You know, because the society, like anybody else, you have to meet the noise ordinances and everything else
Correct.
that's in town. And if there is a disturbance, the neighbors can call,
Well, they would
the
call
police can respond.
They would come
Right.
to our door and say, gentlemen, you guys are being noisy.
Right.
That hasn't happened in the 7 years I'm a member,
Okay,
honestly.
okay, thanks.
You mentioned when it was, it may have happened when it was rented out.
If somebody parked
Confused,
on the
'cause-
street,
Right, but I'm confused. if it's-
I'm not gonna say.
Let me ask
that
my
my
question.
neighbors are lying.
Let me ask my question. Is it rented out or is it not rented out? 'Cause I've heard a few different.
Let me clarify, the renter out.
I'm asking him.
I'll answer it. It's rented out periodically, but it's to members only. Like I rented Christmas Eve for my family.
Okay. And, okay.
So members can rent it privately for a
Yeah.
special event just for
Yeah.
your family or whoever you want to
Correct.
meet there? Okay. And then you pay into the society and whatever, and they cover the costs or whatever.
Exactly. We pay $200 to rent it for the day.
Okay. Okay.
So you couldn't rent it because you're not a member. If you're Italian, you want to join, we'll love to have you. Can't beat it for $200 for the day. My 93-year-old mother used to love coming up from Florida to have the event there.
Any other questions for the applicant at this point in time? I want to go back out to the audience. Okay. All right, thank you. I want to go back to the audience. Anybody
problem.
else here?
Thank you.
Comments in regard to the application? Sir, if you'd like to come back up, please. The only thing I would ask is that we not go over material we've already discussed, so
Very
I'm
good.
trying not to be repetitive or we'll be here all night, so, yeah.
Yeah, regarding the rental situation, you should go to the website that the society has. There's a rental application that anyone can fill out, and anyone's invited to fill that out. So I could rent it, and I'm not even a member. So I think you're getting people in there renting it for profit, apparently. So that's really not telling the truth, okay? And regarding the excursions that these individuals want to make on Miss Smith's property, she already had some bad experiences with them. She already had them throwing roofing debris all over her property. Why should she go through that again? At this point, her husband is deceased. She has to try to move some of that debris herself. Why take that risk? Regarding the overlapping of the fence, this is news to me. There was surveys done several times for this property down through the ages, and it was total news to me that that fence is on their property. This was never asserted till this very night. It doesn't seem to be correct.
No, we have
Mailpack Avenue,
Yeah, we have a survey here.
okay.
Signed, surveyed August 14, 2019, so if you have a competing survey, that would be something we could look at, but
I can bring one, yes. I don't have it with me tonight. And to my knowledge, going back many years, Mailpack Avenue was a no parking zone, stretching from the corner where Mrs. Fuchs' house used to be, right on up into where the post office used to be on Mailpack Avenue. That all was no parking. I don't know why the signs disappeared. Why is it a no parking zone? Safety. Safety of property and persons.
yeah, that would have to be something taken up with the town,
Yeah,
as
well,
to
I'm
parking
just,
signs and things like that, yeah.
But
I
it's
don't know.
time to just try to rectify the record if at all possible. That's what we're dealing with. It seems to me, maybe we've come up with, a la carte here, a solution, which is maybe put those steel steps in, steel steps of 3 or 4 steps in the front, 3 or 4 steps in the back. You have ingress and egress, you've met the code. Steel is much more fire resistant than wood, and it solves the problem.
I'm not sure that's going to solve any of the problems that have been discussed here tonight. It would certainly
Well-
it would take away their deck. I don't know that it changes any of the use problems.
Yeah.
I think people will just step down the steps to have their cigar or cigarette. So I don't know that changes noise. I mean, we do have to just focus on the decks.
Right.
And that suggestion would take away their decks, but I don't know that it would change all those other sort of complaints that you have.
Well, the distillation of this meeting tonight is that Ms. Smith then just has to perhaps call the police more often. That's the solution. She's not a troublemaker. She doesn't want to do that. And she was taken aback when they said, just try to be good neighbors. This is an 89-year-old woman facing 30 men, and she has to try to be a good neighbor, but that's what she's going to try to do. So perhaps that's one of the benefits of this gathering tonight. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am, please come back up.
Hi, I don't want this to be a he said, she said thing. I've lived there, I grew up there. The deck that they used to have there was, it was like what they have now off their door. It was a little small for 2 people, and then you walk down the stairs. How they got away with making it such a nice big deck, they can do what they want, they seem like. They just have this attitude. The thing with the roof, I know it's not about the roof, but just to state the fact about the roof, my father let them take all the shingles off. Agreement, they clean it up. They never cleaned it up. My father never said, we don't want extra work. Why do we want to clean up their stuff? We didn't allow them to finish the other side of the roof because when we allowed them to do the back part of the roof, they didn't abide by what they said they were going to do. They said they were going to clean it up. So we didn't let them finish the roof on the other side because we're not suckers. We're not going to keep letting them do what they want, bully us around. They
Has it
bullied
been
my
cleaned up
mom.
since?
Excuse me?
Has it been cleaned up now?
Yeah,
Has it
my
been-
dad cleaned it up. He's passed away since, but this was years ago, he cleaned it up. But in regard to the deck, the existing deck was there, what they say was built in like 57. I grew up there, I played around there. That was a small, like for 2 people type deck. Why do they have to have this huge deck where more people gather? Because most of the people during the summer gather on that deck. They hang out on that deck. Yeah, if they hung out on patio chairs and things, fine, that's their property. If it gets out of control, I'll call the police.
Yeah, because keep in mind, if we did tell them to tear the deck down,
Mhm.
they'd simply be, let's say, 18 inches or 2 feet lower with a patio or on lawn. I'm not sure what that would accomplish.
Why can't they just have stairs? Why do they need a big deck?
But they could just
Because
build a
they are
patio
renting
there.
it out. It is on their website. I could fill out a form. It says it on their website.
No, I think the
That they can
question
rent out a
is,
form.
how would, if that deck were gone,
Yes.
what problems would that solve for you?
The parties, they can leave the party inside instead of bringing the party
Well,
outside.
they can still walk out
Because
the
during
door. There's still
summer,
gonna be
they
an
walk-
open-
They hang out
yeah.
on the deck.
The suggestion is they
And now
might,
it's big
they might
enough,
hang
they
out
made it
on
big
that
enough
area.
for everybody to hang outside instead of inside. And yeah, they can get their patio chairs and put it on the lawn. It's a little more inconvenient. Now it's very convenient because they
But they
take
could
the
use
party
pavers or
outside.
pave the patio. You know, I mean, they could, you know.
Yep. But I'm totally against, ever since they bought that deck, it's been louder and noisier, and yes, they turn on their car lights and start their car engines, and you're sound asleep and you're hearing all this. After a while, it's like, somebody's gotta stand up to them. I'm tired of my mom being bullied, and that's exactly what's been happening here. She's been being bullied by them.
Can you tell us?
They're not as gentlemanish as you think. We lived next door since '65. So I've known the past owners for many, many years, the president, all of them.
Can you tell us when, you mentioned that your recollection from growing up there was that deck was smaller, the larger deck at one time was smaller. Do you know when it became bigger?
Couple of
To
years
your,
ago.
in your recollection?
Couple of years ago. My kids were all grown by the time it became bigger. That's when they started making it bigger.
You mean
so-
only 2 or 3 years ago they make that deck
I'd say
bigger?
like 3 or 4 years ago.
They made the deck bigger.
Yep. Yep, they just were doing it one day. Just like they put up the plastic shed right next to my mom's property. They just, that was the day after Thanksgiving, the Sunday after Thanksgiving. All of a sudden, the shed appears. Like, you know, they made my dad take down his metal shed, and we abided by it, we took it down. But all of a sudden, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, there's up a plastic shed. It's like, how many more things do you guys think you can do without checking with the town?
Are you
We
talking,
abide by the
excuse me,
town.
are you talking about last Thanksgiving? Last year?
Last year. Not this Thanksgiving, last Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
It was a Sunday, because I remember I was taking decorations around my mom's pole for Christmas. And it was that Sunday after Thanksgiving last year, they put up that plastic.
Do you have any photos or evidence showing that the deck was smaller a couple years ago?
Not
Is there
with
anything
me,
to-
and
is there
I'd have
anything to
I'd have
submit besides-
I have to look through my mom's files. I mean, she has a lot of pictures.
Because I just had a gentleman testify, and the building inspector can very easily check the footings, and it's saying that the deck is on the existing footings, and so it's kind of hard just to
No, the deck
hear-
is not, that's a
Oh,
lie.
but
The deck size
the
now
building
is much
inspector can
bigger.
certainly ascertain that. It's
Yeah.
very easy to tell how old concrete is, whether it's
Yeah.
2 years or 50 years. That's not going to be something that he won't be able to see and understand.
Okay.
So, unless
like
unless
that
unless there's
done,
anything
the
that you or
building
your
inspector-
attorney are submitting hard evidence, I think we've heard, at least I've heard, a
Because
lot
the building
about.
inspector back then was Ephraim.
I understand that. But I see a structure which is 2 feet off the property line, and then I see a deck which is many more feet off the property line, and I see a need to have some kind of deck to get into the structure because it's not at grade.
You're gonna need a big deck. I'm saying you can have the same size deck they have on the side of the house.
So if it is true that the gentleman who testified said that this deck has been in that location, and if it's been in that location, they took over in 1957, right?
Not
we're-
that size deck, has
So
not been there since 57.
if you have some evidence that that's incorrect, certainly there are aerial photos, there's a lot of things that you could present, then that's something I think the board would consider, but it's very hard to consider just testimony, and when we're talking about a lot of things which were unrelated to the variance. So a lot of this other things, this is a commercial use in a residential area. That's not before us. So
No, I
what?
know, tonight's about the variance of the decks, and I understand that. I understand that, but I'm totally against it because I see what those decks are used for.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here else wish to speak in regard to the application? No? Okay. Anything further from the applicant at this point in time? You know, once again, I'm asking, don't,
Not
we're
really.
just trying to
I don't
avoid the
want
same
I don't
material.
want I don't want to repeat myself. You know, I've said my piece, and like I said, we are here just for the variance for the existing decks. And just one thing I would just repeat: to make the decks small, I still would need to come here for a variance.
We understand. Okay. Board wants to have some further discussion on this? Everybody give their opinion on it, or?
I think the test is whether it's an undesirable change, and frankly, if it's been there 60 years, and this has been, I don't see it as a change. My only question would be whether or not we want to have the building inspector confirm that the footings are indeed older and the deck is in the same location. Otherwise, I didn't hear any evidence which said, which worked against this application. Most of what I heard was neighbors who aren't being as neighborly as they could be. But that's not before us. So with this building being this close to the property line and accessory structures being much less intrusive than actual structures, I don't see an issue with it. But certainly if there is some type of bad faith that it's been expanded recently without, and misrepresented, then that's something I would consider.
Right, okay.
I would tend to agree with that. I mean, looking at a variance application, it's a balancing test, and we need to know what the existing structure was, and if it's been expanded, has it changed the use of this property? I've looked at Google Maps and I've looked at the website, and there's definitely advertisement on the website for renting the hall, remodeling of the space, and having a bar, a lounge area, outdoor grill, a kitchen, a rental form with $1 million insurance requirement. So I'm thinking that I need more verification.
Okay.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
It's important to know about how old the deck is.
Right. Yeah, I guess we've received very conflicting testimony here as to, you know, when this deck was actually built, and has it just been renovated or has it been expanded? I'm trying to step back though and take a practical look at this thing. If we told them, as I mentioned before, okay, you gotta take down the deck, okay, then they're gonna have a patio the same size or maybe bigger, 18 inches lower. I'm not sure what we're accomplishing by that. And I haven't seen any evidence that the deck has been expanded. I mean, have they repaired it and replaced parts of it? I'm sure they have, because there's no deck that's gonna last from the 1950s to today. And so, like I said, we could have them take it down, but I'm not sure what that will accomplish. It seems like most of the complaints here relate to how the property is being used and noise and things like that, which are outside the scope of what we're looking at. So, okay, so,
But-
sir. Arnie, what do you think about this?
You know, I agree, where I have very mixed feelings about this whole thing. In the sense of, I feel for you as a resident, for your mother. Again, by the deck size, if it was increased, I would like to see more fact when it was done. But at the same token, if we turn around and have them take it down, the usage is still gonna be the same. So, in the sense of, what do we do here? You know, in the sense that we've heard good neighbors, neighbors upset. I will say that, you know, I've been in that situation when I was a kid, growing up down at South Somers. We had good neighbors and bad neighbors. It's a very hard discussion of which way to go. You know, when it comes down to the usage, it's going to be used no matter what. Now, I will say this much, in the sense of Mahopac Avenue being a very scenic area. You know, if we can, I would like to see some sort of landscaping to soften up. I will say it's very rough, you know, point of view from looking up the driveway. You know, it's just there. There's no landscaping whatsoever. I don't know if we can put in a request to have some landscaping done to soften up the front of the building. That's something that has to be discussed. That's where I feel at this particular time, in the sense of usage. You know, regarding the smoke, you know something? I've never smoked in my life. I feel for you. I really do. Okay? I can smell it 20 feet away, and more so. Okay? So I feel for you. I understand, you know, regarding your mother. You know, regarding the smoke, there's nothing that we can do about that either.
I'm sorry, I want to continue through the board, please. Sure, Bill?
Well, I'm conflicted, frankly, the way Arnie is, but if I boil it down, we're just talking about a deck. Now, if the deck was there beforehand and did not require a building permit, then I'm tempted to go with the variance tonight. If the deck was enlarged without a building permit, then I'm saying, okay, that's illegal. And then I'm tending to lean over towards Mrs. Smith. But I think we have to have that answer. Tom, do you feel that you can determine that?
I have a couple needs, and I could look at to see how the property changed over the years, if it did change.
All right, so from my point of view, it's just me. I'm just one person on a board, but I would appreciate that information before I had to make a decision.
You asked an interesting question. Did a deck in 1950-something require a permit?
Yes.
Okay.
Building permits came into effect with the adoption of zoning,
But for decks as well as structures? Okay.
Tom, what do you think?
I feel the same. I just want to know if that was 3 years ago or so, whenever that happened. If that deck was expanded, then I have a problem with it. If that deck has always been that way, then we should grant. I would tend to vote to grant the variance.
So if what I'm hearing from the board is, do we want to hold this over to next month's meeting? Have Tom do some more research to see if we can find some type of historical pictures or other documents regarding this?
I agree with that.
Is that what I'm hearing from
Yeah.
the majority of the board members? Does that seem to be a reasonable approach to take here?
Yeah.
Yes.
I ask myself sometimes, is this something that I would approve if it came in this size? And I'm not sure, you know, with the outcry of the residents and how things are going along.
Right.
I don't know if I would grant it. Not sure if I wouldn't, so I'm kind of
Right.
both ways, you know.
Now,
I
Tom-
agree with that, because if it was
Sure.
there as is, then that's one thing, but if it wasn't, and we're looking at a variance and we're looking at whether the request is substantial,
And
This
then,
type of
right.
size may be substantial, given the proximity of neighbors.
We have to grant the smallest variance. It's-
That
Tom-
would accomplish the purpose
Right,
of
sure.
ingress and egress.
If we deny the deck and they have to take the deck down, do they have to get a permit or anything to put a patio in there or anything else?
I wouldn't do a permit issue a permit for patio,
No.
but steps.
Steps down, there'd have to be.
Yes.
And we'd have to have two forms of egress no matter what. We can't eliminate the egresses, obviously.
I haven't looked at it to that extent, as far as the occupancy, quantity of occupancy, and how the building's broken up on the interior, but they're, the applicants, Willie over here is saying that it's required, and he works, with the codes quite often.
Because I know, like, for example, a basement apartment, you always have to have two forms of egress, even if one's in the house and one's the outside. But, it seems to me almost every commercial structure has to have two forms of egress.
Not
If they can hold over
Not
50
necessarily,
people,
okay.
50 people it becomes a place of assembly, right,
The
Tom?
codes have changed over the years too, so.
Usually 50 people, if you fit 50 people, it's usually 2 exits.
Yeah.
The more egress, the better.
And
Oh,
then-
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a safety
Yeah,
issue
right.
to me that I would be concerned about, yeah. God forbid there's a fire in one section of the building, and,
It's reduced, the sprinkler systems, and the code gets complicated with that.
Right, okay. Okay, so is the consensus of the board that we're going to hold this matter over to next month's meeting? Tommy, you can see if you can do some research on this and maybe give us some more information, maybe before the meeting, that we can just see what's going on here, so maybe we could see historically what has happened in regard
Or
to this deck.
simply see the footings.
Yeah, or maybe an inspection. I don't know, whatever you feel that you could, give us as far as additional information. Oh, okay. Okay, so I think, anybody object to holding this over to next month's meeting with the plan we have in place? No? Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna hold this over to next month's meeting. We just wanna historically look at what's gone on with this deck, and then the board will hopefully make a decision next month. Okay?
No problem at all.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So everybody should hold on to their packets regarding this matter, so that we have the information for next month's meeting. Okay, next item on the agenda this evening, we're gonna continue on here, is that of Robert and Dasha Epstein. It looks like there's actually, you are actually item 4 and 5, it looks like, on the agenda this evening. The first application is for an area variance for a storage addition to an existing accessory garage to an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district at 11 Wood Street, Katona. Also, there's an application here for a new three-car accessory garage to an existing one-family dwelling in an R80 residential district, also at 11 Wood Street, Katona. Sir, if you could just give us your name and address, please?
My name is Bobby Epstein, and I live at 11 Wood Street in Katona, Somers.
Okay. And could you briefly describe the application before us here?
Sure. The first application is for a three-car detached garage, and the reason for the variance is because I'm apparently too close to a road, but the road that I'm too close to is a paper road that was the old Wood Street that hasn't been there in God knows how long. The other application is for an addition to a garage I have now to make for some extra storage. I'm a classic car collector, and I'm just running out of room.
Okay. Okay, I was wondering why there's various garages. I figured you're collecting something, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is an R80 district, is that correct? Yes, R80, okay.
Now,
Okay.
the existing three-car garage that is there, there's a CO for that?
Yes, there is.
There's an existing three-car garage that is about 15 feet, it looks like, off of Wood Street.
That's
Paper
correct.
road.
That's the old Wood Street
That's
that's
the
no
old-
longer there.
It's not there. And you still have to maintain, Tommy, from, well, I guess Paper Road is still potentially a road, right?
It's the property boundary,
Oh,
which kind of has some curves in it, it's the front property boundaries. That Old Wood Street, which is a paper road, is not, that's beyond his property boundary.
Okay, so he doesn't own, you don't own the paper road, Wood Street?
That is correct, I do not.
Now, then he still has to get a permit, for a driveway?
No,
Go on the paper road?
the driveway's in, it's been in for forever.
I'm sorry?
The driveway's been there since the 40s.
The new garage is gonna use the same driveway as the existing.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, what is this variance for? I see is it the 40.7 foot?
Correct. Apparently,
to the corner of the building?
Apparently, the new garage is a bit too close to the property line because Tom decided that was a front yard as opposed to a side yard.
And you need okay. It says 102.4 is needed?
Well, that's only because the other front, I think Tom can explain it better than I, because he explained it to me.
Okay, explain it to us.
The principal building is set back 102.4 feet from the front lot line.
Oh, I see.
That's where I pipe in.
Oh, okay.
What's that?
That's where I pipe in. The code says that you can't have an accessory building in a front yard.
So it's a front yard building, that's what the issue is here?
No. The
No?
issue is,
No?
the setback for the front is 40 feet.
Right.
You can't put a garage in that 40 feet without a variance. The definition of the front yard is from your front door to a line perpendicular to the street to the nearest tangent. That's just saying what a front yard is. It's not the required yard. The required yard is 40 feet. Anything beyond that, you don't need a variance.
Okay, but he's beyond 40 feet, but because...
He's to the good though.
What?
He's 40.7 feet. If it was 39 feet, he would need a variance.
So, but we need a variance for this, right? We're saying
No.
40 points...
I don't think so.
Let me see, right here,
Ron doesn't interpret the code.
the same way you do. Okay, and how do you interpret it, Tom?
Tom says that the
The
front
code
yard
says no
changes.
accessory building shall be in any required front yard.
Required front yard, that's the
And then,
kicker.
if you look at the definition of a front yard, a yard extending the full width of the lot unoccupied except as permitted under this chapter and lying between the front lot line or the line of the street upon which the lot fronts, and a line parallel thereto, tangent to the nearest part of the front of the principal building.
So it's that required word is where
Yeah,
Right.
you're saying it's on the required front yard,
Correct.
you're saying it's on the actual front yard,
right.
which as defined by where the front of the house is. In which case it would be 102, in that case it would be 40.
Right.
But the building inspector has determined that this is in need of a variance
But
because
the
it's in a front yard.
ZBA is the one who determines if if the applicant suggests that he's looking for a definition, it goes to the ZBA for the first definition. So we actually have purview. And I don't know, I'm leaning with you, but I'd kind of like to hear it again. Just to make sure I got it.
Ron, would you please run through that again?
Yeah,
I'd like to hear it
I
again,
just want to
too.
make sure I picked up the nuance in the language right.
We have a lot that has setbacks, correct? It's
Right.
front, side, and rear.
Right.
Anything else is in the building envelope if you don't encroach onto those numbers.
Okay,
Okay, so he has a front yard, which is true, because he has a front door and he has a front property line.
right.
But that's not the required yard. The requirement for the yard is 40 feet.
So you're saying as long as it's it's 40 feet away from the property line, even though it might be in the front yard, it's not applicable?
Correct.
That's the way I've seen it elsewhere.
If that
Right, but
were
that's not
required-
Tommy's interpretation.
But that's not
and-
Tommy's. And, I'm trying to think back to when we've had these buildings, accessory structures in front yards. I'm not sure that they were in the setback. I thought they were further than the setback and we had to approve them as a front yard structure. but I don't
If they
know.
were in the setback.
But if they,
If
no,
they
I'm
were-
trying to even think, even when they weren't in the setback.
Past practice has been if it's in front of that closest point of the principal dwelling.
Right.
Wow.
I know it's, maybe not in all instances, but in some instances.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
Right, I mean,
That's the way I just read it.
But Tom, you're right, the word is the required front yard.
Right.
So, it's an interpretation.
If the required front yard is 40 feet, then that's the operative word. And I don't, and that's
Yeah, but
the
he's
way I
got,
see it.
he's got a front yard of 100 feet, or something like that.
well,
Yeah,
to the house.
To the
To the house.
right.
That's not the requirement. The requirement is 40.
And that's from the
Right,
garage.
but by doing it, by setting the house back 102 feet, what's suggested is he's now defined his front yard as 102 feet,
Right.
which is now being applied to this structure under that interpretation.
Right.
So we're saying that the building code is going to penalize anybody who gives himself a gracious front yard. And not allow them to do anything else closer.
We didn't intend that.
Well, but essentially that's what this
Interpretation.
interpretation lends itself to, and I'm suggesting that that's not the way the zoning code would have been set up.
I don't know, I think historically though, when I've looked at these type of applications, you know, as soon as there's a structure in front of the principal structure, it seems to be a front yard issue. That's how I've always thought of it and how I think it's always been addressed in prior years. But I think regardless, I don't think we have to necessarily get into interpretation issue. If we're gonna approve it anyway, even if it is, maybe that's what we do. I'm not sure we,
I would like to know moving forward.
which way we feel on this.
Well, I think the easiest thing to do is the applicant has the burden of asking the question one way or the other. So if he wants to proceed with this application for a variance, I think most people, well, I can speak for myself, would be in favor of that variance. Or if he wants to proceed and ask for a definition, then that's how we have to respond. Either, it's the applicant's choice.
Well, except that if he's just asking for an exception, that's what he's here to do.
He's
So
asking for.
we would give him an exception to Tommy's interpretation.
Well, no, we'd
If
be
he's
giving-
here to ask for the other one, that's, you're trying to make new law. I
No,
don't wanna do that.
he's either asking for a definition or a variance.
Right,
And so,
we would interpret the code.
so if an applicant is unhappy with the building inspector's interpretation, he can ask for us to interpret. That's the process. Or he can ask for a variance.
But the application is for a variance.
Which is a good point. So the application is for a variance.
So
and
if you wanted to ask for an interpretation, there'd be a separate application, which would have to be submitted for another meeting.
Good point. Good point. So
So you can't ask that now.
And the variance is just making an exception to Tom's interpretation, so.
granting a variance, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I want a variance.
That's a good answer.
That's a very good answer.
All right, so the applicant is asking for a variance, is not asking for an interpretation at this time. So that would be the first item, that this is basically a front yard issue,
Right.
a variance, and because the building sits back 102.4 feet, the garage is 40.7 feet off the property line, therefore a 61.7-foot variance is being sought, simply because it's in the front yard.
Right.
Right, per the interpretation of the building inspector.
Right.
Okay, we can debate the theory behind that, I guess, at some other time.
Yeah.
So that's the first variance. So I'm just trying to understand this. And then the second variance is for a storage addition to an existing accessory garage. Okay, now is this 102.4 is needed for the storage? And here again, this is the same issue because it is technically in front of the structure, because it certainly sits enough feet. Okay, now I'm understanding. I was reading this application at home, I couldn't figure out. Now I see what you're saying, because they're both front yard structures, because they sit in front of the main residence. Right.
Well, except we've already approved, or someone has already approved the frame garage that's there.
Correct.
The existing three-car garage.
That one and the frame at the top.
Yeah.
No, it's not old, it's not old at all. As a matter of fact, it was just renovated with a permit 3 or 4 years ago. And the only reason that I came to you is my architect, Nelson, thought that this garage over here would be in the side yard and well within the variances for a side yard, but you educated me that because of the way the main house is, it becomes a front yard. So this is the same thing. It's a matter of whether we call it the side yard or the front yard, but it's on the back side of an existing garage that's permitted and was permitted recently, within the last, I want to say, 4 years.
Now,
So
I don't have any problem with the storage.
there are 3 driveways into this property?
There are.
Are these all your driveways, or is there an adjoining property?
This driveway that's in the back, that's gonna be next to this proposed 3-car garage.
It goes between 2 of your garages.
That's an easement drive, well, it's a driveway to one of my garage, but it also provides an easement to Dr. Dempsey, who lives up behind me.
Oh, so there is another neighbor who uses that driveway?
There is.
Okay. But you own both of the garages on either side of that driveway?
That's correct.
I see.
Oh, his driveway is just, it's an easement through my property. My property goes back
Right.
quite a distance.
Okay. Okay, that answers that question. Okay.
now, Tom, this is just a general question. Is there any limit to accessory buildings on an R80 property?
Yeah.
Because we have,
There's a couple limits. One is garages in particular. You're allowed garage space for 1 vehicle per 10,000 square feet of lot.
okay, so we're not coming into,
Yeah, 80,000. Then there's another, there's limitations as far as environmentally sensitive lands and setbacks from existing structures, and utilities, like the septic well, and there's also lot coverage that prohibits you from having multiple, having too many impervious areas.
okay.
But Tommy, none of those come into play here, because he's
No,
got plenty of land, right?
He has 9+
He's got-
acres.
I want to say it's 6.5, I think.
Yeah, he's,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
He's already had his environmental determination done for both
Right.
these projects. He went
Right.
to the planning and engineering, and there's no environmental
Right. Good.
permits required for either of these improvements.
Okay, because I see swamp lands back here, and
Okay. Yeah, because we have 3 garages, I see a frame shed, so, okay, so there are a bunch of structures here. Okay. These additions have no issues with septic or wellheads, anything like that? We seem to be okay with these new structures?
No, you're correct. There's no problem with that.
The existing frame garage is a 2-car garage?
That's correct.
So we got 3, 6, 8 of them, 8 parking of 8 cars, I guess?
Yep.
I have a lot of cars.
Yeah. So maybe you have more in there then?
He only
Well,
drives one at a time.
I have a lift or 2 in there, so I can park one under another if I need to.
Okay, so you can stack them, yeah. And these garages will have electricity to them?
That's correct.
Okay, no plumbing in these garages?
No.
Okay. There's no second story in the garage?
No.
They're on slab?
Correct.
No basement?
No.
Okay. Any concerns, questions from neighbors that you've gotten? Any issues?
I've spoken to 2 of my neighbors, Dr. Dempsey and the gentleman to the right of me, and my other neighbor is here tonight.
Okay.
So if he has a concern perhaps, but the other 2 do not.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for the applicant at this point in time? No. Okay. Sir, would you like to say something? Please go up to the microphone if you can give us your name and address. We'll be happy to listen to any comments.
My name is Frank Cantor, and I'm a direct neighbor of Bob's. And the only reason I'm up here is to sort of comment on what we've witnessed here tonight, where there was such a big problem with neighbors in the last permit. And, Bob designed this thing. I know he's done it carefully. When he built the first garage, I mentioned, gee, do we have to have lights on at night? He immediately just put them on a motion control. There was some equipment that I could view from my property, and I mentioned, wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to see it? He moved it. So, I mean, there's a way for neighbors to get along. And although I didn't know about this, I see how it's going to work, and it doesn't affect me really at all. So I, just wanted to comment on neighborliness, and it's very interesting for me to be among this board and see how it operates, and thank you for the work you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to have neighbors that are working things out. It's always a good thing, obviously.
So if we've done things in the past the other way, that's how we should do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a variance before us, so I think we're going to adopt the position here that this is a variance that's needed for these two sheds. I mean, for the garage and the storage area. Yeah.
Well, there's two separate variances.
Right. Yeah, we have to vote on each separately, it looks like here, because we do have two structures.
I don't think we have to adopt the position that it's a necessary variance. I think we can just adopt the position that it's a variance in front of us,
Right.
and that we're approving it.
Right.
I mean,
I could have saved us 20 minutes. I have to say it, though. This is
All right.
I'm with you.
All right, any other discussion from the board? Any other things we want to talk about or figure out here? No?
No.
Sir, did you have any other comments for us? Any other? No, okay. Any other questions of the applicant? We're good to go?
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to have two items to vote on here. We should start with number 4 on the agenda first, which is the storage addition. Do we have a motion for the type of action?
Be it type 2?
Second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have a motion as to whether we're going to accept or deny the application regarding the storage addition to an existing accessory garage?
I move we accept the variance.
I'll second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to move to item 5 on the agenda, same applicant, of course. This is for the area variance for a new 3-car accessory garage to an accessory, to an existing one-family dwelling. Do we have a motion for the type of action?
Type 2. Excuse me.
Second.
Go ahead.
No, you
All right.
go. Type 2 and I second.
Type
Aye.
2.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have a motion as to item 5 on the agenda, the 3-car accessory garage? We're going to accept
I'll
it.
make a motion that the application is approved.
I'll second.
Mr. Carpinetto?
Aye.
Ms. DiPolito?
Aye.
Mr. Gio?
Aye.
Mr. Harden?
Aye.
Mr. Lansky?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Chairman Canestra?
Aye.
Thank you.
Congratulations, sir, both your applications are granted.
Good luck.
Thank you. Last item on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the November 19th, 2019 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, any changes, comments, concerns? No? Okay, I'll approve by consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay, we're going to approve the minutes then for the November 19th meeting. Our next meeting is going to be February 18th, 2020. That's the third Tuesday in February. Any other items that we need to discuss tonight?
I just had a question.
Sure.
So, that last applicant, I had a run into him in the past. I guess he was a seller, I represented a buyer on a real estate transaction. I forget in terms of my test of when I'm supposed to recuse myself. I think it's that if I'm gonna be prejudiced in any way.
Yeah, historically, in regard to recusals, we've always left it up to the individual members to
Yeah.
make a determination if they feel they should recuse themselves. So
Okay.
if you feel, because, sometimes just living in the town, we're gonna know people maybe, and you have to just feel, if you feel it's a conflict of interest or.
Yeah, I didn't feel it personally, but I didn't know how
Right.
the board operated in that regard,
Yeah.
and being a local attorney, I run into a lot of people.
Right.
So,
Right.
I wanted to ask.
As long as you feel you can act impartially, I think,
Right. Now, I will say there's been times where I have personally recused myself, under certain circumstances too. So there are times where I do know the people and I just go forward. So
Yeah.
it's your judgment.
I've had to recuse myself sometimes, and as chairman, then I have to pass it to somebody else to basically take that item as the.
And I recused myself because Karen Merritt was here, and she's a customer of mine.
Right. So you have to just make the judgment, so.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other matters, anything else we want to discuss? No. Okay. All right, that's it. We're going to close down the meeting, and that's it for tonight. Good night, everyone, and thank you.